Hey, I'm Sophie. Welcome. This is the Studio SE6. Thank you so much for choosing to practice with me today. So I've titled today's class Happy Hips, and hopefully by the end of your practice you'll understand why. We not only hold, most of us will hold physical tension in our hips. Maybe if we sit down all day, if we have a desk job at a computer, even just a lot of cycling or a lot of running can cause tightness in the hips. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel not only a physical release in the hips, but also an emotional one too. So any emotional stress, any negative energy can all be held in the hips. This class is 60 minutes long, so it's a full-length yoga practice. You'll need your yoga mat and 2 yoga blocks or 2 sturdy books. These aren't essential, but if you're working with tight hips, then I would recommend having the 2 blocks or the 2 books handy by your mat, just so you don't have to run off in the middle of your practice to grab them. So always just a good idea to have them at the top of your mat. So when you're ready, let's get started. Let's start today lying on our backs. So coming down to your mat, taking your feet wider than your hips or as wide as your mat, and allow the knees to roll in towards one another. So if the knees don't meet here, just placing a cushion between them. Taking your palms lightly to rest on your belly, either side of your navel. Walk your shoulders away from your ears, and the chin and the forehead are in line. Choosing to either close the eyes or gaze towards the tip of the nose. And from here, just taking a moment to settle into your space and onto your mat. And take a little time to connect with the breath. Encourage your breath down to your belly, into your hands. As you inhale, feel the hands rise as the belly expands beneath them. And as you exhale, soften the belly and feel the hands lower back down towards the mat. If you can, breathing through the nose, inhaling, expanding the belly into the hands, and exhaling, softening and releasing. And gradually beginning to steady the pace. Allow the skin and the muscles of the face to soften and relax, visualizing physical tension melting into the mat. And throughout your practice today, trying to stay with this easy belly breath. Just checking in every now and again that the breath is steady and calm. And let's take one more breath in here. And a big sigh through the mouth. Opening the eyes if they're closed. And then let's just walk the feet in towards one another so the feet are hip distance apart. And then take the arms and the legs away. Take a full body stretch. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, circle the ankles and the wrists. And then let's take the right knee in towards the chest. Hug the knee in, holding on top of the shin or behind the thigh. With an inhale, gently pull the thigh away from you, allowing the belly to expand and creating space in the hip crease. As you exhale, draw the knee in towards you. Inhaling, release the thigh away, and exhaling, draw the knee in. And last one here, inhaling and exhaling. Take the right knee directly over the right hip. Keep the leg at a 90-degree angle. Draw your navel back in towards your spine and keep your pelvis level so your hip points and your pubic bone are on the same plane. Softness in the lower back here. Try not to rock the pelvis back, but keep a neutral spine. Taking the arms out in line with the shoulders, pressing the palms down to the mat, or if you don't have the space, take cactus arms instead. With the elbows and the shoulders in line, forearms rest back. So from here, let's start to take circles with the thigh in the hip socket. Drawing circles with the knee one way. Coming out to the side, around, across the midline of the body, and back around again. So the core is working here to stabilize you and to stop the pelvis from rocking. And then let's circle the other way. Come back to center, reverse the circle, or now point through the toes. So the big toe now on the right starts to draw circles. Just make sure that you're not overarching the lower back as the leg comes away from you. So out to the side, around as big as you can, across the midline of the body, and back out to the side. So making that leg as straight as you can, or again, just staying with the bent leg. Really working to keep that pelvis as still as you can. Last one here, and then let's reverse. Take the leg across the chest line, out to the side, and back around. You should start to feel something happening in the hips now. No matter what option you've chosen, they should start to feel a little warmer. And then come back into the center. Bend the knee in towards the chest. Take the back of the head off the mat, chin towards the chest, and roll up looking towards that knee. Navel towards the spine. Take the shoulder blades off the mat. Inhaling, full body stretch. Roll down, extend arms and legs away. Exhale, bring your left knee in towards you. And let's do the same thing here on the left. So hugging on top of the shin or behind the thigh. Inhale, release the thigh away from you, and exhale, draw the thigh in. We have 2 more of these, just working with the breath. Full inhale and full exhale. Keeping that breath, if you can, through the nose. Taking the knee over the left hip, again a right angle with that leg, choosing your arm position here, and let's take those circles. So you may find you're working a lot harder to stabilize yourself on one side than you were the other, and that's completely normal. Come back to center and let's go the other way. Come back to center, and an option again to point the foot, reach through the left toe, and then take in those circles. Or keeping the leg bent. Maybe you can challenge yourself a little more by taking bigger circles. See if you can begin to make those circles a little bigger. So we're moving quite slowly, we're not just swinging the leg, we're moving from the core. And the other way. And let's make this the last one round here. Come back to center, bend the knee in towards the chest, tuck the chin slightly, roll up, lift the shoulder blades, look towards the knee. Inhale, take a full body stretch, and exhale, bend both knees in towards you. Take the knees in towards the armpits, taking a wide leg hug, and just rock from side to side over the base of the spine. Come back into the center, connect your big toes, but keep your knees wide. Then press your knees away from you, softness in the lower back so it's imprinting gently into the mat. Take a big circle with the knees, and then bring them back round in towards you. So again, keeping the pelvis as still as you can, trying not to rock that pelvis forwards as the knees come away from you. Draw navel towards the spine. All those hips should be feeling nice and warm now, as should the inner thighs. And let's go the other way. Last one here. And keep that wide leg hug. This time we're going to place the feet down as wide as your mat. Taking the arms, cactus arms, or again palms down away from you here. Take your right knee and drop it in towards the center line of your body. So we're internally rotating the hip. Flexing the right toe so you don't collapse into the inner ankle. Making sure there's no knee pain here. So if there is, then you may need to just bring that leg a little higher and not press so much towards the mat. So if it's comfortable with the exhale, you're gently just pressing the knee and the inner thigh towards the floor. Come back to center and drop the left knee in. So you just want to think about the knee coming across to the midline of the body. And let's go with the other side. Keeping the chest open and finding as much length as you can between the outside of the right hip and the outside of the knee. And we'll do one more on the left, again finding that length from the outer left hip to the outside of the knee. And then come back into center. Walking your feet in, and then hug the knees in towards the chest. So entirely up to you if you want to take hold of the backs of the thighs, rock backwards and forwards to come to seated, or just roll to the side and make your way up to seated that way. So if you're rolling backwards and forwards, make sure the chin remains tucked, and you're just rolling through no higher than the notch of the neck. So keep your chin tucked, we're not rolling onto the head, and we're not throwing the legs over the head either, so we're staying in a ball shape. Make this the last one. Come up to seated, and then let's make our way onto all fours. So in our all fours position, just spreading the fingers really wide here, take a slight grip with the fingertips, and press evenly through the mound of every finger. Stacking your wrists, elbows and shoulders, slide your shoulders away from your ears and keep your neck nice and long, reaching through the crown of the head. Knees are stacked directly underneath the hips. Tucking the toes under, take an exhale, start to curl your tailbone underneath. And then roll through the spine, let the head drop and look towards the navel. Press down through straight arms and separate the shoulder blades around the body, lifting your chest between those shoulder blades. Inhaling, slide the feet away, tip the tailbone towards the ceiling a little, roll back through the spine and then lift the chest through the arms, spread the collarbones wide and pull the shoulders down towards the waist. Look slightly forwards of your mat, or if it's comfortable, a little way up. Exhaling, tucking the toes under, tuck the tailbone under, draw navel to spine, curl all the way through the spine, let the head hang, nod the head yes and no. Last two here, inhaling, pull the feet away, tip the tailbone up, lift the chest through the arms. Exhaling, tuck the toes, tuck the tailbone, and roll through the spine. Inhaling, come back to your tabletop position. You can always come down to your forearms here if it's too much on the wrists, bringing your elbows directly underneath your shoulders. So let's take those hip circles that we did lying down. Again, working the deep core muscles as you bring that right knee in towards you without rounding through the spine. Stay in your solid tabletop position. Take the knee out, around, and back under. Only making those circles as big as you can manage without the pelvis rocking. Draw the navel towards the spine. Keep the chest lifting between the shoulder blades. Stay strong in the arms. And then let's go the other way. Try to balance your weight between the hands. Press down through the back shin and the top of the back foot. Leave the leg in line with the hip, so knee in line with the hip. Extend the leg out and place down either a flexed foot or maybe working your way towards the blade of the right foot. Toes point towards the front, knee and hip are in line at the back. From there, walk your hands away from you as if you're coming into a downward facing dog. Your gaze is towards your back knee and your head bows between your arms. Keep a broadness in the upper back, pressing back through the hands. Spine is long. Breathing into the right thigh, finding space and length. And exhaling, just softening and letting go of physical tension. Come high on your left fingertips. Keep pressing the weight back. Right arm comes all the way through the center. Lay your head on a block or gently to the floor. Keeping the hips facing the floor. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Rolling that top shoulder back and the underneath shoulder through, as if you're trying to stack one shoulder on top of the other. Keep the neck relaxed. Inhaling, and with the exhale, slowly making your way back to center. Walk your hands in underneath the shoulders. Bring that right leg, swoop it back behind you, and then all the way through, lunging to the right thumb. Knee and ankle in line at the front. Press down through the back shin. Inhale, lift up into crescent lunge. So here we want to think about drawing the energy up and out through the fingertips or the crown of the head. So think about hugging the legs in towards one another. You can physically draw your heel to the back of your mat and the back knee to the front of your mat. Feeling a stretch across the front of the left hip. Tailbone is slightly tucked, just so you can find length in the lower spine. The pubic bone lifting towards the navel. Take one more breath here. And then interlace your fingers, place them behind the base of the skull. Elbows come into your peripheral vision. Lift up onto the ball of the foot. That's just an option here. Maybe press the hips a little further towards the front. And then open the chest, hang the head in the hands, and look towards the ceiling. Take one more breath here. Inhaling, opening the chest. And then exhaling, if the heel is lifted, bring the heel down. Release the hands, tuck the back toe and bring that back foot to the front. Feet are parallel and we'll come up into chair. Sink that weight back, lift your chest. Make sure when you look down you can still see your toes. And the knees are pointing over the second and third toe. Bring the hands to the shins, push the hips back and reach out through the crown of your head into a halfway fold, finding length in the backs of those thighs. You may like to use your block here. There's a modification shown in the little screen. Otherwise, we'll take our left hand to the floor, bend the left knee, and we rotate to the right. So we take that right arm either up, or we can take palm open to the sacrum. Roll your shoulders back. Left leg is bent, right leg is straight, stretching down the outside of that right hip and thigh. Gaze can be to the floor, to the right, or up. So wherever the neck allows. One more breath. Keep that extension in the spine. And then let's bring the hand all the way back. And we'll come back into chair. One inhale here. And exhale, fold forwards. Bring your fingertips to the floor. And just let the head go. Nodding yes, nodding no. Keep a softness in the knees. Allow the top body to melt over the thighs. Step one leg back and then the other as we come into plank position. Stacking your wrists and your shoulders. Tuck the tailbone slightly under, just so you have length here in the lower spine, engaging your core. Inhale, lower the knees, pull the shoulders forward, so they're just forwards of your wrist line if you can. Keep pulling forwards as you slowly lower down to the mat. Point the feet away, inhale, finding cobra. If you want to here, you can tuck your hands under, take your hands anywhere down the rib cage. Press gently into the tops of the hands, elbows in, finding a wrist stretch here. Keep lengthening out through the crown of the head, collarbones broad. Nose comes down to the mat. Tuck the hands back underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes. With an exhale, press directly up onto your knees. Then press into your plank. Draw the navel in and press back. Keep the arms straight, coming into our first downward facing dog. Feet hip distance apart. You can bend the knees here to find length in the spine. If you're opening the hamstrings and the lower back, then you can begin to sink your heels towards the mat. But finding length through the spine first, and then you can think about working the legs. Take a few breaths, looking towards the big toes to keep a broadness in the upper back. Taking child's pose if you need to, you can come to the knees, sit back to the heels. One more breath here. Making your way onto your knees, knees underneath the hips. Again, coming to the forearms if you prefer, elbows under shoulders, as we begin those hip circles on the left. Take the left knee towards the navel, take it around, back behind, and circle around. Just making sure that you don't start to sink your weight back to your hips. You want to make sure that the shoulders remain over the wrists. And reverse, let's go the other way. And then on this last one, taking your knee in line with the hip, extend the leg out, pull the toes back, either so that you're on the arch of the foot or roll towards the blade of your foot with your feet facing towards the front. And then let's walk those hands out into downward facing dog arms. Just checking, looking back that the hip and the knee are in line, and you want the right knee in line around about with the arch of the left foot. Take a few breaths here. With the inhale, finding length and space in the body. And with the exhale, just softening, releasing into the pose. Keep pressing back now with your right hand in line with your right shoulder. You can come up onto the fingertips. Take your left arm through and underneath. Reach through the left fingertips. Keep pressing back towards your hips. Roll the shoulders away from the ears. Thread the needle. Laying your head on a block or lightly on the floor. Breathing into the space between the shoulder blades. And with your exhale, coming back through to center, bringing your hands directly underneath your shoulders, swoop the leg round and bring that left foot towards the left thumb. Lunge into the front, making sure that that right knee is behind the right hip, knee and ankle in line at the front. Inhale, coming up into your crescent lunge. Again, thinking about squeezing the mat between you with the legs. Lifting away from the floor rather than just hanging out here in the hips. Take the hands, interlace behind the nape of the neck. Draw your elbows back, just in your eye line. Maybe coming up onto the ball of that front foot and sink the hips a little further towards the front heel. Lifting the chest, opening up the collarbones, gaze to the ceiling. Head is supported in the hands. Press down through the back shin and the top of the back foot. You may wobble. It is a balanced pose as well if you're on the ball of your foot. And then bring the heel down. If it's lifted, take the head back to the front and let's step forwards to the front of your mat. Again, feet parallel underneath the hips. Inhale, lift up, chair pose. Sink that weight back. Exhale, hands to the shins. And inhale, lengthen out. Draw the shoulders back towards the waist. So for our twist to the left, you can use a block underneath the right hand or fingertips come to the floor, but you want to keep that length through the spine. So if you start to round, use your block to find that length. So we never want to twist with a rounded spine. Bending in that right knee, keeping that left leg straight. So we're working on a stretch down the side of the left hip and down the thigh. Opening up now, hand to sacrum, palm open on the sacrum, or maybe lift that arm all the way up. And choosing to gaze to the floor, to the left, or if the neck allows, towards the ceiling. Slide your shoulders down away from your ears. Look towards the floor and then swoop that arm all the way around, lifting back up into chair. Folding forwards over the thighs, lift the hips a little here, but keep the knees soft. Step back into a plank position. Again, stacking those wrists and those shoulders. Tuck the tailbone slightly, engage the core. Lift up between the shoulder blades. Inhale, and as you exhale, lower the knees, or you might like to shift the shoulders forwards, bend the elbows back and come down in one plank position. Whole body to the floor. Inhale into cobra. Again, if you want to, tuck in the hands under, anywhere along the rib cage, where you can gently press into the backs of the hands and feel that stretch in the front of the wrist. Elbows point back. All 10 toes on the mat, the neck is long, and you're gazing towards the floor. Exhaling, nose to the mat, hands back underneath the shoulders, tuck the toes. Either suck the kneecaps up into the thighs, come up into a plank, or half plank on the knees. As you exhale, press up and take it back to your downward facing dog or child's pose. So option here to come to all fours, sit back to your heels and then lunge your right leg forwards, as seen in the small box on the screen. Otherwise, right heel lifts into the air, into your three-leg dog. Keep your hips and your shoulders square. Heel comes in towards the bottom. Curl the knee underneath to the navel. Start to round through the spine and bring your shoulders in line with your wrists. Flex those right toes, pike the hips up a little more, help the leg through with the right hand, or step that foot through. So we want the right foot by the right thumb. Back toes are tucked, make sure you're hip distance apart. Lift up into arrow pose, hovering that chest from the front thigh. Keep the hips and the shoulders square to the front and reach back through your fingertips. So you can either now, to come to the front of your mat, tap your toes to bring your foot to the front, or we step one big step and bring that left thigh out in line with the hip as you come to standing, hands to heart center. And then bring that leg all the way over in a rainbow shape, landing softly the toes to the mat on the outside of the right foot. Take a squat down here with the weight behind the toes and hug your thighs in towards one another. From here you can choose to take the toes off the floor, allow them to hover, and pull the foot in as much as you can in towards the right calf. As we come into eagle pose, some of us may be able to bind naturally, taking the toes around the back of the right calf or ankle. Keep squatting down, keep sucking those thighs in towards one another. Option to take your left arm on top of your right, back to back forearms, or entwine the palms if you can. Lift so you're looking to your elbow creases, and you want to look just past your arms, just on one side or the other. So you're almost blurring your gaze to keep your focus and balance. You can tap the toe down or bring the knee back up in line with the hip. Take it around in a big circle and bring yourself back into the arrow pose. Hold here, one inhale. With the exhale, let's swoop out to warrior two. Take the left arm by the left ear, swivel on the ball of the back foot, and bring your knee and ankle in line at the front. So back foot turned in slightly or parallel, whichever's more comfortable. Front heel in line with the back arch. Sink the hips down, take the arms away. Reach out through your fingertips. Keep your weight in the center. Crown of the head in line with base of spine. Shoulders in line with the hips. Take a few breaths here. Allow the shoulders to melt down the back. Take that back hand lightly on the back thigh. Turn the front palm over. Take the hand to the nape of the neck. With an inhale, slide down the back of your thigh and try to bring that right elbow point to face the ceiling. Relax the shoulders, hold the head in the hands. Keep that front knee bending over the ankle. Keep the navel drawing to the spine. And releasing the hands, look towards the front. We're going to cartwheel the hands so that that left foot steps over slightly now, so that the feet are hip distance apart, and we're back in that high lunge position. From here, take the hands down. Option to step back, down dog or child's pose, or take that right leg all the way back and through to where it started in your three-leg dog. Stay here, come to child's pose, or if you want to take a vinyasa, inhale, float to plank. Lower the knees or take a full plank to the floor. Roll the shoulders back, point the feet away, cobra. Or pull the chest further forwards, press into the hands, lift the thighs, roll the shoulders back, upward facing dog. And with an exhale, press up to half plank if you're in cobra, or full plank. If you're in up dog, make your way slowly to plank. Take it back to downward facing dog. Feet hip distance apart, take a breath here. Follow the breath down to your belly. Feel the belly and the ribs expand. Exhale, soften and release. Find a calm, steady breath. And again, to transition to the front now, come to the knees, sit to the heels, lunge the left foot through, or bringing your left leg up into the air, back behind. Reach through the left heel, making sure you're not opening the hips to the left. So really try to work those hip points to face the floor. Bring the heel in towards the bottom, draw navel to spine, curl through the spine, bringing your shoulders above your wrists, flex those left toes, and then when you're ready, lunge to the front. Your feet are hip distance apart on the ball of the back foot into a high lunge. Lifting up into arrow pose. Reach back with the fingertips forwards through the crown of the head. Take that right leg all the way round in a big circle out to the right. Come to standing, lift through the chest, and all the way over that left leg. Balancing the toes just on the outside of the left foot. Sink that weight down, back behind the toes. Lift the chest, press palms to heart center. Option to take those right toes off the mat and then hug that foot in as much as you can towards the left lower leg. Or if you can naturally bind, take the toes behind. Keep your hands here or take your right arm over your left. And again, lift up the elbows to look towards the elbow creases. Pull your shoulder blades around your body, feeling them wrapping around. Finding that gaze to one side or the other of the arms. And then slowly release arms. Bring the knee back up, tap down if you need to. Step it all the way back, hip distance apart, arrow pose. I'm going to quickly change sides so I haven't got my back to you. Right arm out by the right ear, big circle. Taking that back foot, so that right foot to face either directly forward or slightly turned in. Coming into your warrior two pose, keeping your hips as level as you can. Lift that front hip away from the thigh rather than tipping down into it. So keeping those hips as much as possible level. Take the back hand to the back thigh, turn the front palm over. Keep this front knee where it is, so try not to begin to straighten it as we come back into our reverse warrior two. Relax the shoulders, reach up through the fingertips on the left hand. From here, take the left hand behind the head, around about the nape of the neck, support the weight of the head, and work to get this left elbow point towards the ceiling. Keep hugging the navel in. And then let's come all the way back through to warrior two. Hopping that right foot over now towards the right so that you can rotate the whole body back round to the front. So we're facing back to where we started. Step back to child's pose or take that left leg all the way back into three-leg dog. reaching out through the left heel. Staying here, coming to down dog, or if you're feeling energetic today, maybe taking a vinyasa here. So coming through to plank, placing that left foot down, either to the knees, down to cobra, or full plank. Pull your chest forwards. Inhaling, again cobra, or pull the chest up and through, upward facing dog. Slide the shoulders away from the ears. If it's comfortable, maybe look towards the ceiling a little, stretch the front of the throat. Finding your way to plank, and then take it back to downward facing dog or child's pose. Making your way onto your knees. Keep the toes tucked and sit back to tuck toes if it's comfortable, otherwise just flatten the feet here. Keep pressing back through your hands to bring your hips back towards your heels. Lunge your right foot to the outside of your right hand. So you want to have a wide enough stance here that your shoulders can fit comfortably through. Pulling back the toes, turning your foot and your knee just out towards the front right corner of your mat, and allow the thigh just to roll open, making sure you're on the blade of the foot and not just collapsing into the outer ankle. So engage the foot, engage the ankle by drawing the toes back. So you may want your blocks here, coming into our lizard lunge. You can stay high on your fingertips, or make your way towards the floor on your forearms, or your blocks as shown in the screen, blocks underneath your forearms to elevate the floor for you slightly. So don't rush this. If you do bring your forearms to the floor, your elbows are directly underneath your shoulders. Work to lift that left hip a little away from the floor, so we're not turning it into a twist and allowing that hip just to dip into the center. So think about square hips here, engaging through the legs, so we're not just dumping down into the hips. And keep lengthening out through the crown of the head. So another option from here, this is going to make it again slightly harder. You can take your fingertips out in front in line with the shoulders, and just like you would in downward facing dog, bow the head between the arms. Keeping the breath steady and calm. If you need to, just always ease yourself back out of the posture. There's no need to hold them as long as I am here. One more breath in, and one more breath out. Slowly, hands come back underneath the shoulders. Walk that right foot back in so that the knee and the foot are facing forwards. Keep walking the foot in so it's back to the thumb side of the right hand. Very slowly lifting the left knee off the mat and make your way back to a downward facing dog or child's pose. Take a few breaths here. Coming back to the knees and sit back to tuck toes. So on the left side this time, let's take our left foot and lunge to the outer left side of our hand. Turning the foot and the knee out to the front left corner, again pulling those toes back and roll just to the blade of the foot. Allowing that left thigh to naturally just roll open. Lifting slightly in that right hip, again, so we're not turning this into a twist, and we're not dumping down into the hips either, so you want some sort of connection through the legs and through the feet into the mat. So energetically we're lifting up even though we're folding forwards. Squeezing gently in that right glute, either staying here, this is absolutely fine, this is enough of a stretch for most, or again making your way onto your forearms on blocks, or elbows underneath the shoulders. Slight lift in that right hip and extending out through the crown of the head. Shoulders draw back towards the waist. Option here to take the arms in front press back through the fingers, through the hands, and bow the head. Take a few more breaths here. One breath in and one breath out. Walk the hands back underneath the shoulders, really slowly moving out of this pose. So we've really opened the hips here, so try not to just snap the legs back in. So we want to walk that left foot all the way back, walking that left foot back to the thumb side of the left hand. Lifting that right knee off the mat, making your way back into downward facing dog. Taking a breath in and a deep sigh out through the mouth. Making your way onto your knees, keeping your big toes connected. We're coming into a wide leg child's pose. So if you're not at the stage where you can comfortably sit your bottom back to your heels, then you may like to take a block or some sort of book underneath you and place that between the feet. Just connect the big toes to the block and you can sit back to the block. So it just elevates the hips slightly for you. So making your way into this wide leg child's pose. Legs are as wide as you can comfortably go and extending the arms out in front. Again, think downward facing dog arms. Lifting wrists to armpits as you press back through the hands, bringing your hips towards your heels. And you can always stack a block underneath the head, your fists one on top of the other to rest your forehead. Or you can draw your elbows back a little and bring your forearms down to the floor, spreading across the upper back, head to block or head to mat. So choosing whichever option suits you today. And let's just take a moment to connect back to that belly breath. Following the breath in through the nose and down to the belly. The belly softly expanding, the space between each rib expanding, feeling the openness in the side and the back ribs, in the entire back. And as you exhale, just softening and releasing. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Slowly making your way up now to all fours, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders and just walking the knees back underneath the hips. And just give yourself a wiggle here, maybe just circling around in the hips, one way and the other. Making your way onto your bottom. Bringing your feet out in front, the knees are bent, so find a place on your mat where you can roll down and your body is fully on your mat. Taking the arms out in front, tip back towards your tailbone, tuck the chin slightly here. Take an inhale. With the exhale, draw the navel in towards the spine and begin to roll yourself down all the way through the spine and eventually to the back of the head. Inhaling, take a full body stretch. Wiggle the fingers, the toes, circle the ankles and the wrists. And with your next exhale, swoop the arms round, bring the knees in towards the chest. Taking your left foot flat to the floor and bringing your right knee towards your armpit. And just being careful here not to hike the right side of your pelvis up as you do this. So keeping the pelvis level. Taking hold of anywhere along the outside of the right lower leg or even the blade of the foot. As you hinge from the knee, bring the sole of the foot towards the ceiling, half happy baby pose. Draw the knee down through the armpit towards the floor. Pressing up through the ball and the heel of the right foot. making sure that the shoulders are completely relaxed and the chin is not jutting towards the ceiling. So if it is, placing a cushion behind the back of the head just to elevate it slightly, so the chin and the forehead are in the same line. Work to keep your tailbone on the mat rather than lifting the hips just to take hold of the foot. So always just lowering the hand anywhere on the leg so that you can release the pelvis to a neutral position, finding just a softness in the lower back. And you can even just hold on to the back of the right thigh. If this is comfortable for you, chin and forehead are in line, pelvis is in neutral, then you can extend that lower leg down with the kneecap and the toes pointing towards the ceiling. Let's take a few breaths here in this half happy baby pose. And as you inhale, breathing in and around the right hip crease. And as you exhale, finding a softness in the hip. And taking one more breath here. Bringing that knee back in towards you. Inhale, take a full body stretch. And exhale, bringing in the left knee. So again, let's start with the leg bent on the right, so foot is flat to the mat. Hug that left knee in towards the left armpit. Pull down that left hip so the pelvis doesn't hike up on that side. Taking hold of just the back of the thigh, anywhere along the outer lower leg, or the blade of the foot. Draw the knee down towards the armpit. Keep the tailbone down on the mat, so there's no pressure in this right foot at all. Keeping the chest open and the collarbones broad. If it's comfortable, again, extending that leg. Toes and kneecap point up. One more breath here. And draw the knee back in towards the chest. Take a full body stretch. Inhale. Swoop the arms around and bring both knees in towards the armpits. So taking a wide leg hug. And again, holding behind the thighs, anywhere along that outer lower leg. If you can take the blades of the foot, then you can do so here, as we hinge both legs and bring soles of both feet to the ceiling. And draw the entire spine down to the mat. So we're not lifting and rocking back the hips here just to take hold of the feet. Instead, get the back on the mat and take hold of whichever part of the leg will allow you to find that length in the spine. Find a little length in the neck, chin and forehead in line. A broadness here in the upper back, shoulder blades down on the mat. An openness in the chest, a softness in the elbow creases. Feeling the belly expand through the thighs in this happy baby pose. Breathing in and around the hips, finding space. And then with the exhale, softening, releasing in the hips, releasing in the spine. And maybe rock from side to side, just a little over the base of the spine. And slowly bring in the legs back in towards the chest. Give them a hug in. Extend your left leg away from you. Hug your right knee in towards your chest. Take the right knee out in line with the right hip. Take cactus arm with the right arm or fully out to the side with the palm down. Taking your left hand to the outside of the right knee, keep the chest open and draw that right knee across the body towards the left. Anchor down through that right shoulder and the right arm. With each exhale, maybe adding just a little pressure on top of that right thigh, drawing it closer towards the floor. And we may even find a stretch in the glutes in the outer right hip in this twist. Coming back through to the center with an exhale. Hug the knee in, full body stretch, inhale, and exhale, take the left knee in towards the chest. Left knee over hip, and the left arm reaches out, cactus or fully out to the side. Taking that left knee now across the body with the right hand. I'm just going to move my mic so I don't squish it. All the way across. Again, anchoring down now through that left shoulder and arm. Shoulders away from the ears, the neck has length and space. And coming back through to the center, take the leg in for a hug and then bring in the right leg as well. Taking the feet flat to the floor and keeping the knees hip distance apart, a little away from the sit bones here with the feet. Take your palms down by your side. Gently press into your palms and into your feet as you take an inhale. With the exhale, draw the navel in, tip the pelvis back, pull the thighs forwards, knees over ankles, and start to roll up through the spine. Feeling an openness here across the front of the hips as you squeeze the glutes slightly. Keep the neck long and work your way up towards your shoulder blades or the tops of the shoulders. Inhale at the top, take the arms up and overhead or keep them where they are. Keep the arms there as you exhale. Roll down piece by piece through the spine until eventually the tailbone melts into the mat. And if the arms are lifted, bring the hands back down, either side of the hips. Coming into our final relaxation, just taking these few moments to allow yourself to absorb your practice today. Walking your feet as wide as your mat or wider than your hips and buckling your knees in towards one another. So we've done quite a lot of external rotation in the hips with our lizard lunge and our warrior two, our wide leg child's pose. So let's take constructive rest pose as we did in the beginning, just allowing the thighs to internally rotate. So we're taking those legs wide so that the knees can come into the center. Again, placing a cushion between the two if that's more comfortable. Taking the arms away from the body, palms upturned, or maybe you'd like to just have those hands resting on the belly as we did in the beginning. Otherwise, the arms are away from the body, palms upturned, shoulders rolled back and down, closing the eyes or gazing towards the tip of the nose. Soften the skin and the muscles of the face. Allow the eyes to rest back heavy in their sockets. The forehead and the chin in the same line, finding a little length in the back of the neck. Turning your attention inwards to the breath. Following the breath in through the nose and down to the belly. Watching the belly rise on the inhale and soften and release on the exhale. Silently beginning to count in for 4. Pause at the top for a moment of nothing. And then exhale for 4. In and out through the nose if you can. Closing the mouth and parting the teeth. Allowing the breath to remain steady and calm. And with each exhale, letting go of any physical tension, anything you're holding on to. Let go of any thoughts that come to the front of the mind, just allowing them to drift again and again with each exhale. The entire body melting into the mat, completely relaxed. The mind calm and still. Taking 3 more easy breaths here. And on your last breath, take a big exhale through the mouth. Beginning to slowly wake the body up, wiggling the fingers and the toes. You can roll the head one way and then the other. Just making whatever movements you want to begin to wake the body up. And when you're ready, just heel toe the feet back in, hip distance apart. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Hug the knees in. Roll around the sacrum. And then making your way to seated. Maybe just rolling to the side, taking a moment there, and then coming up to a comfortable seated position. Take a deep breath in, reaching up, palms together, maybe gaze at the thumbs. Take a sigh through the mouth, bring hands down to heart center, chin towards the chest. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you benefited from the practice. I hope you enjoyed the class. Please let me know in the comment boxes below, and I hope to see you again soon.